Hey guys, this is Danny with Axis Games, here again to show you another demo for Hands of War 3. In this video we're going to look at the combat portion of the game. I've got that stuff in and going to show you what you can expect, and be happy to take any feedback you guys have on this. So the first thing that we're going to do is look at the abilities. So we come down here. In this video we're going to look at the wizard's abilities. In the actual game you'll be able to choose between wizard, warrior, and ranger, and the specific abilities that you'll get in the game will kind of determine what kind of wizard, what kind of ranger, and what kind of warrior you have. So something I really wanted to focus on in this game, and a lot of the feedback I got was that the abilities in the first two games weren't really in synergy with each other. You would use them when they came off cooldown, but they didn't really work together. So what I tried to design in Hands of War 3 was abilities that worked well together, and so you almost have like a rotation of spells. So the first thing that we're going to look at here is on the right side our passive abilities. And if you played Hands of War 2, you're familiar with the rune system. Passive abilities work like runes, where you can have one passive selected at a time, and it provides some sort of passive buff or utility effect to your abilities. You'll gain passives as you play through. There are up to 7 that you can gain, and you'll start with 1. The starting wizard passive is Flame Affinity, and as you can read, it increases the damage of Call of Fire, and abilities that consume fire play charges have 100% chance to grant one when used. And the whole idea when you are playing a wizard is you're trying to build up fire play charges. You can have a maximum of 3 at any time, and fire play charges increase the effectiveness of certain abilities. Okay, so let's look at basic rotation of spells that a wizard would go through. Flame Strike is going to be your spammable direct damage attack. Strikes your target with fire, and the important thing is that it grants 1 charge of fire play. Call of Fire consumes any fire play charges, deals a bunch of damage, and the casting time of Call of Fire is reduced by the number of fire play charges you have. So ideally you'll stack up 3 charges and then use Call of Fire, because the cast time by itself is pretty lengthy. Combust is a damage over time. It grants a charge of fire play. And then if we look at these other 2 abilities, we'll come back to Trial by Fire. Brimstone, you're actually cast it on a selected area, and it'll do area of effect damage to anyone in the area. It also consumes any fire play charges, and damage is increased by 15% for each charge. So if you've got a situation where you've got 3 charges, you can use Call of Fire, which is going to be direct damage to a single target, and that'll consume your charges. Or if you've got a bunch of enemies in an area, you can use your fire play charges for Brimstone. Finally, we've got Trial by Fire. And the cool thing about some of the abilities in Hands of War 3 is because you've got allies, you can use them on either enemies or allies. And this particular spell is one of those, where if you cast it on an enemy, it's going to do damage. If you cast it on an ally, it's going to heal them. And the cool thing about Trial by Fire is the effectiveness is increased by the number of fire play charges you have, but it doesn't consume them. So ideally what you want to do is you want to build up 3 charges, use Trial by Fire, and then use one of the abilities that consume your fire play charges. If you've got Flame Affinity on, you're automatically going to get one of those charges back. Okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and drag down Field of Valor, which is one of the abilities that you're going to get no matter what class you have. And in fact, if you side with the Alliance, this is one of the ones that you're going to get later on. I also tried to add some different types of abilities. For example, Field of Valor is one that's going to drop an area ring on the battlefield, and as people walk through it, it's going to apply debuffs to them if they're enemies. Almost like kind of a trap. So, the next thing I'm going to do before I actually start fighting is I'm going to flip over and look at the party menu. So if I open the party menu, you'll see that we've got 3 champions or party members with you, and their portraits are up here. We've got health and energy. You'll notice we've got Triton, Aaron, and Serene, and these graphics for the factions are not final. These are the ones from the old games. I'm going to put in the new ones. You'll notice we can switch between roles. I talked a little bit more about the party system, the roles in the previous video, so I'm not going to hit too much of that here, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch Serene over to be a healer. So you'll notice that her abilities change. Each champion has 3 abilities. One is a passive, just like you have a passive, and then they have 2 activated abilities. If they're set to do damage, which is indicated by the sword, they're going to have abilities that deal damage, and a passive that corresponds to that. If they're set to heal, they're going to have healing or shielding or buffing abilities. So we've got this set up. We've got a tank, DPS, and a healer, and you are set up to do damage right now. As a wizard, you can be either a healer or a damage dealer, but we'll get into that in another video. So, without further ado, I'm going to close this out, and you'll notice that as I'm walking around, you don't see your 3 companions with you. That's because while you're not in combat, they are hidden. As soon as you engage in combat, you will see them pop out and immediately start to attack. The last thing I'm going to say before I actually engage is that when you have someone set in a tank role, like here we have Triton set to tank, they are automatically going to try and get everyone else to attack them, because that is essentially the role of a tank in a party. So for example, if I have a particular target and everyone is attacking them, and then this guy decides he wants to attack me instead of the tank's going to switch off and start attacking him to try and pull aggro. So there's a lot of artificial intelligence that goes into your party members and your companions and what abilities they choose to use at certain times. So I really wanted to minimize the amount of micromanaging that the player had to do, and I didn't want them to become frustrated with the stupidity of some of their party members. So I tried to make it as realistic and intelligent as possible. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select one of these, and I'm going to use Flame Strike, and it's going to immediately engage in combat. My companions pop out and they start attacking. You'll notice that Erin is shooting arrows. She's set to DPS, and Serene here is healing, and you'll notice the heals that go up when Triton takes damage, and you can follow it along up here. Now the numbers and all that stuff haven't been balanced yet, so don't pay attention to how quickly his health is falling and that sort of stuff. And also, you'll notice that all of the player models are the same. That won't be in the final version. I've got them all set to the same right now so that I can compile the game faster when I'm doing testing. So let me run through a quick series of abilities here. So I'm going to use Flame Strike, and you'll notice that as soon as I use Flame Strike, I get a charge of Fire Play. I Flame Strike again, and I get a second one. If I Combust, that puts the dot on him, and you'll notice the dot pops up here, and you can mouse over the abilities to show you what's happening. We got my 3 charges of Fire Play. I'm going to put another one up so I don't lose the buff. And then if I use Call of Fire, you can hit number 2 and cast it very quickly. And then I get 1 stack of Fire Play back, so I can go through the rotation again. 1, 2, and this time if I want to use Trial by Fire, I can mouse over allies if I want to put it on them, or I can mouse over an enemy and put it on one of them. Okay, so if I wanted to heal, I could do that. And it didn't heal for very much because I lost my Fire Play charges before I put it up. Show you Field of Valor. This is what puts the debuff on any enemies standing in it. So if I drop this down and then I target him, you'll notice the Field of Valor, the damage received is increased by 10. And this buff will apply every couple seconds. So as enemies pass in and out of it, they're automatically going to have that applied to them. I switch targets and I start attacking this one. Notice that the tank switches back and forth and makes sure that he's aggroing both of these so that they don't lose aggro on him and start attacking somebody else. I'll show you Brimstone real quick. This is the one where you select an area and it drops a spell on them. It does area of effect damage. And obviously they can't die yet. I haven't put that in. That'll be the next stage. But I wanted to give you a brief overview of what it is that you can expect. So please leave feedback and check back soon for more updates. Thank you much.